the all-volunteer crew of Indivisible District 10, we just welcome you and thank you for your time and your patriotism. We'd like to start with both the Pledge of Allegiance and the singing of the National Anthem. Would everyone please stand and please flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight is about you. Tonight was always about you. Whether Representative Comstock was going to be joining us, or even will be joining us, it was still always about you, about all of us. When the organizers reached out to me a little bit ago about coming and moderating, I loved it the chance. I recently convened a series of 5 town hall style discussions in D.C. after the election, bringing together economists, political scientists, philosophers, linguists, psychologists, historians, artists, and thinkers across every discipline to try to understand this moment we're in, this very odd, very unprecedented, and for some of us, very perilous moment. Where are we? What does this mean? What does this look like? These were not contentious sessions, and tonight, I don't imagine it's going to be a contentious session. But I don't think that contentiousness is a bad thing. It's what democracy looks like. And I love the chance because I'm a Maryland resident. I'm not from the 10th, as the Congresswoman pointed out. I don't think that the concerns you have and the concerns that I have and that motivated me to come out to join you tonight and to moderate this discussion are so very different. We are all here because this is a moment we're trying to understand better, and we're engaging with it. And that I mentioned for 5 weeks because I wanted to learn more and I wanted to be more informed and gain some measure of clarity. I believe that there is hope in clarity. And that's why I'm here tonight. And I want to facilitate a really thoughtful, interesting discussion that gives you the ammunition to go forward, that helps you understand the moment we're in better, where your congresswoman is, and the issues that define our time, define all our time. The organizers of this event, you may have seen some of these indivisible events around the country. This departs a little bit from that script. This is an all volunteer cast. Nobody's being paid. Everybody's devoting a lot of time. And nobody is a professional in this realm. The president spoke about liberal activists who are packing these town halls, as if somehow that's a bad thing that 50% of the population is showing up. Whether you're a liberal activist, or just a liberal, or a moderate, or a libertarian, or a Republican, tonight we're all together, we're all trying to understand and trying to dive deeper. And I'm very impressed with these organizers and the quality that they have been trying to impress upon me of having a night of thoughtful discourse, civilized discourse. I believe nights like this, where we're together in one room, not tapping away at Facebook, not seeing something that goes by and sending it off to a friend on Twitter or email, but being together in one room, seeing each other, hearing each other, looking around and knowing that even if we might have differences, we're all engaged. There's something amazing about that. There's something very civilized about that, and I think there's something very civilizing about a night like this. I want to go through a couple of the ground rules before we get started. So we're going to dive into 6 issues, which you'll see shortly posted. 6 topics of broad discussion, and we'll get to, with luck, all of those and more. We will, for each, we're going to try to take at least 3 to 5 questions. I hope that works. Make sure if you have a question to try to phrase it as succinctly as possible, just so we can get as many people who want to be heard as possible. That's what this is about. This is about being heard. And when we're in a room like this, and we share what we're thinking, we share what we're afraid of, we share the issues that we want to learn more about, we are making ourselves heard. The Congresswoman will be seeing this transcript. So if you fear that these words are just going to go out into the air, they're not. And if you fear somehow that this is just a show of showing up, hearing some interesting points of discussion, it's not. This has meaning, it has value, and you're coming out tonight. I think I want to say a big round of applause to everybody for coming out tonight. I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed. We have folks also joining us on Facebook Live who will be asking questions from time to time. We talked about ground rules. I don't suspect it, but if things should get unruly, try to keep this civil. This is a demonstration to the folks in power that we can be engaged without being unruly. And try to keep your questions, as I said, to a point of decision, that they don't ramble on for a few minutes. We want to try to hear as many people as possible. We have instead of the congresswoman, we have a team of fact checkers. And when you ask a question, they will be answered. They will be drawing from her public record and from statements that she has made over the years to give us the best, most accurate accounting of her stance on a particular issue. When you do come up, there's a line, not to be crossed, it's our imaginary line. That line, you'll stand there to ask your question, you'll step forward. Please, when you have a question to ask, identify yourself by name, if you're comfortable with that. Make up a name if you're not. Lord knows we have to go undercover, some of us nowadays. And please state your town and your zip code. And that will help with getting these various questions relayed to the representative. Okay. Without further ado, let us begin. Our first topic is national security in Russia. And this is to put it mildly, a burning issue. We know very little at this point. What we know to some of us is troubling, at the very least. More, I suspect, will be coming out, and many of us are sending articles around, sending tidbits around like crazy. I've received probably about a dozen in the past week or two. What do we know? And what do we want to have this representative know as it relates to Russia, as it relates to national security? Questions of compromise, potentially. Questions of conflict. Who wants to step forward with the first question?
I'm Sue Riley from Ashburn, Virginia, 20147. Congressman Comstock, Russia was involved in the 2016 election. How are you going to make sure that this issue is investigated independently beyond what is being investigated with the CIA or the Senate Intelligence Committee? Thank you. And by the way, I get paid Social Security.
So, my name is Scott Duchek. This is a topic that has interested me since even before the great election. My first question that I had for Representative Comstock was very similar to the question that was just posed. David, if you go to slide 4, Representative Comstock's response to me was certainly that she strongly condemns any foreign interference in our democracy, and that she supports her statement that there's bipartisan work being done by the Senate and House Intelligence Committees. So this was, she sent me a letter early in January and reiterated in an email. This was actually from her chief of policy staffer on February 16th. She also tweeted, because tweeting seems to be the method of communication for our representatives, on February 15th that she agrees with the investigation going forward. Dave, if you want to go to the next slide, beyond what in addition to, so those are public statements. Now, there's some additional actions that are available to her, and I and a number of constituents have asked her to co-sign HR 356, which actually sets up a independent commission apart from the House and Senate Intelligence Committees, and it would model a lot like the 9/11 Commission, in which they would appoint non-elected officials to investigate the Russian involvement in our elections. So this is what we've asked her to do. Her response has been that while she supports the existing committees, she is not interested in any special or select committee on that topic. Does that answer your question?
Let's see your
A
sign.
sign that says boo.
Boo.
That pales in comparison to what we've seen in some of the other rallies. I think we need to step this up a little bit. So we've seen what I would characterize as a mild engagement with the issue.
Correct, yes. Certainly, she has made some statements once prompted by constituents to respond. I think the tweet that you see above is her only statement on record regarding her support of a congressional investigation and oversight of the topic. But certainly, there has been no action in response to her voting record. I would like to say that the above bill was co-sponsored by all the Democrats, and then also this week, one Republican from North Carolina or South Carolina has also signed on as a co-sponsor of this bill.
Just this week.
So we have bipartisanship on the bill. There's been to this point no real active engagement from the Congresswoman, but she is not opposed to it and is not particularly interested in a special investigation.
She is on a number of occasions said she does not think, she believes the House and Senate committees on intelligence are sufficient for doing this investigation. Now, she claims that she'll state that those commissions are bipartisan, or the committees. They are not. I mean, they are chaired by the majority party in both cases, and the chair of the House Intelligence Committee has not shown as much interest in actually going through with the investigation. So specifically in the House, there should be more emphasis on the investigation.
Before we get to our next question, how many of you, by a show of hands, would like to see more being done with a special investigation?
Yeah.
I would call that decisive. Thank you. We can't always get what we want. Yes. There will be, yes, absolutely. Question was, will there be time for some short comments other than the questions? And we hope to get that. Let's have our next question.
My name is John Schroeder. What other information?
What's your town? What's your zip code?
I'm in Gainesville, 20155. My question was similar in that I know that my color office, she's told me, or her person on the phone has told me that she doesn't believe there should be partisan investigation into the election interference, but similarly I want to know what actions she's actually taken. Because you hinted the Senate and the House Intelligence Committees don't seem overly enthusiastic about really moving forward with this investigation. So she strongly objects to this election interference. What is she doing to push them in that direction? But I also wanted to ask about what you plan on doing with regard to the possible ties between Trump's campaign and Russia, especially after the revelations regarding Michael Flynn's supposedly unauthorized discussions with Russian representatives. I don't understand when collusion with a foreign power concern for that became a partisan issue.
Yes.
When our founding fathers created the executive branch, they almost didn't want to do it. They were terrified of giving one person that much power. And their worst nightmare, and half the reason Alexander Hamilton created the Electoral College, was their nightmare that this president would fall under the influence of a foreign power. And you can read that.
Does the representative see this as a purely partisan or even as just a partisan issue?
Well, she certainly, in a number of cases, stated that she supports she believes that the existing committees are bipartisan. However, she has consistently backed away from a truly bipartisan investigation of this matter and has taken no action to support it. In terms of the recent revelation on the National Security Council, actually I believe the email quote above was my follow-up question on that matter. So she's reiterated the House and Senate intelligence committees would be sufficient. I personally said I'm concerned about the intelligence committees specifically because they can, I'll say, hide behind the classification of the sources and methods, and so I'm concerned that there will not be a full disclosure coming out of those committees, which you would get from a select committee. So
We did have to take our word for it.
yeah, exactly. It's a take a word for it.
Boo.
Yes, sir. Hi, my name is Divakar Rajashekharan. I'm in Ashburn 20148. Being resident of US for the last 20 years, my term since in last year. India, that's not a democratic country, but I thought the politics there is like pretty much messed up. After last year, I am confused now. But anyway, the question is different. We talked about national security, we talked about Russia's interference into election, but my point is a little more different than it kind of spans two things: conflict of interest as well as the national security part of it. We don't know any kind of, we don't have any window into what Trump's organization dealings are, and they are not disclosing anything. So far, he hasn't divested any of his properties or anything like that. The point right now is, there was a dossier. I'm not talking about his personal life in the dossier, but I'm talking about the financial aspect of it, what kind of holdings and all. Why didn't the government, or why didn't anybody, representative, anybody, right? Why didn't they really look into that particular part of it? Why are we not looking into it? Because it is going to be a matter of national security at that point. Because if there is some kind of a holding in any country, for instance, even the 7 countries chosen, it doesn't have any kind of business interest in it, but there are other countries where there are majority Muslim population. He totally gave it up because he has business interest in those. So the national security part is like really, really questionable. Is it really being checked by the pundits who are real national security people? And what kind of thing that Barbara Comstock is to drive towards the Republican Party and make her voice about it? What is her answer to it?
So Dave, if you can go to my slide 15.
We're very high tech.
So we did, in organizing this section, a couple conflicts of interest with national security for that very reason, because they are, in my opinion, tightly coupled. There's and so I did some research into the various conflicts of interest, both financial as well as influence over policy.
Before you get to that, can we dim the lights slightly so can everybody read the long list of
It would be good.
conflicts of interest? If we could dim the
would be
lights
good.
slightly.
So to your point, sir, the main area where Trump's potential conflicts of interest map, cross into national security is in his foreign property ownership.
Yep.
We have no knowledge of the full extent of his foreign property
That is
ownership.
what scares me, because representative from within the party, if they're not aware of it, like who's going to get aware of it?
Right. So there was a HR 371, the Presidential Conflicts of Interest Act, which was introduced on January 9th, and it's co-sponsored by 123 Democrats. To my knowledge, I have not seen any Republican member of Congress or Representative Comstock make any public statement expressing concerns over his foreign property ownership or his encouragement of foreign powers to stay at his properties, which would be a direct which crosses into the Emoluments Clause of the Constitution. So there's a number of issues, and in my research, I could not find any statements where Barbara Comstock shared her concerns.
Which is very disturbing. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Well, let's take one more question on national security in Russia, just so we can cover a lot of ground here. If you still have questions, store them up. With any luck, we go through this at a good clip, and we'll have time left over for a number of questions. Go on.
Hi, my name is Emily Quinn, and I'm right here in Sterling, Virginia, 20165. And I was not paid to be here today. I know that you said that Representative Comstock's response to the concerns about the conflict with Russia at this point have been tepid at best. At this point, we know that the ex-national security advisor had conversations with a Russian ambassador. We know that Jeff Sessions, who is now the Attorney General, was an active part of Trump's campaign when there's a possibility of collusion and is refusing to recuse himself from any FBI investigation. And we now know that his chief of staff, Reince Priebus, had a private conversation with some people from the FBI about possibly dampening down some of the stories.
Which is illegal.
And refuting, yes, it is, and refuting, the stories about the possible collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign. So what I'm wondering is, what is Barbara Comstock's red line, and what is she so afraid that they might find if there's some kind of independent 9/11 style connection?
Yes.
So I attended a Rotary Club meeting with her on Wednesday.
That was thrilling, I'm sure.
And at that point, she said that there are 7 ongoing investigations, and she trusted that they would figure something out. I tried figuring out what all 7 she was referring to. I could come up with the Senate and the House Intelligence Committees. Lindsey Graham just opened up another investigation on the Senate side with the Judiciary Committee, so that's 3. I would assume the other 4 are within the FBI and under the control of the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions.
Well, the last thing I just have to say is more of a comment or suggestion for her rather than a question. But I know that her colleague, Jason Chaffetz, had no problem spending taxpayer money, doing lots of investigating about Benghazi. So I guess I'm just curious, she could speak with him and the rest of the
Your question regarding congressional oversight actually is interesting. Last week she had a committee meeting on cybersecurity. She is co-chair of the Science and Technology Committee, and Representative Don Beyer, also one of the representatives in this area, submitted a letter asking her to look into some of the cybersecurity risks and have a committee investigation of that. And she made you can watch the YouTube, it was a pretty snide comment, frankly, that says, well, it's kind of interesting that now you're interested in oversight, and then brushed that aside. So it seems that the Republican members of Congress may have lost their appetite for oversight.
I'd say it's pretty interesting considering they were all about oversight under the Obama administration. Thank you.
Right on.
Thank you. We're going to move on, though we could probably spend 2 more hours talking just about Russia and national security. We're going to move on to conflicts of interest. We have the tax returns that we've yet to see and that we may never see. We have business in foreign lands that we don't know the extent of. We have members of the First Family who are traveling and getting enormous sums of taxpayer money to do the business of a corporation. And this is just the tip of it. So, do you have a question for us on potential and actual conflicts of interest?
I do, and also I was in line before, and I do have my one concern about Russia. My name is Johanna McBain. I'm from Sterling, 20164. And my Russia concern is this, that I am concerned that there is that Russian spy ship off the coast of Connecticut. I'm wondering if and when anything is going to be done about that. That is very concerning to me.
That was not the only one.
Right, there was one off Virginia too, as well, I read. But the other thing, the conflicts of interest, this is just like I've been wondering a little bit. I understand paying for the travel of the president for a state visit and things like that. Why are taxpayers paying for his son to go to Uruguay? How is that some of our national interest? I don't understand that.
Vlad Chinikov here, and I did some research on conflicts of
A
interest.
little louder.
Yeah, you're gonna have to pull it in.
You got to project to that room all the way to the back.
I see. Okay. So first about the spy ship. The spy ship is in international water and unfortunately has every right to be there. It is concerning, but that's how kind of international relations go, is that everybody spies on everybody. Now, what Russia sometimes does is they start harassing American ships and American planes. United States typically takes high road and does not do it, but there were some high-profile encounters recently when Russian planes buzzed American ships in international water. American ships did not respond. So, more to the point, this ship can be there. There's no reason.
Is it not unusual that it's there?
It is not unusual, no. It's so speaking about protections for president's family, these protections are afforded. President's family is protected by Secret Service as the president himself. Now, of course, we have a president with several adult children, and it is a rare occurrence. And typically, adult children of a president do not engage in business dealing overseas as Trump's family did. So there is very little precedent to that. And it kind of ties into demands for Trump family to either divest or put their assets into a blind trust so that they don't have to personally oversee it. And we as taxpayers don't incur this outrageous cost for guarding Trump's family on business trips.
If I can jump in, is there anything in the public record to suggest that Representative Comstock is troubled by this mixing of business and politics and national security?
Good question. Dave, if you could go to slide 14. This is the entirety of Congresswoman Comstock's public record on Trump's conflicts of interest. And I tried to reach Barbara Comstock's staff with questions, tell them that it would be my role to present her record, and then that I am committing to presenting it accurately and asking them to give me something to show to you. These emails went unanswered, and this is the best of my knowledge.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Woo!
Yes, do you have a question?
I do. It is tangentially related to both the conflicts of interest issue as well as the Russia national security topic. My name is Jenny Couch. I'm a resident of Leesburg, 20176. I'm also not a paid protester. I'll be happy to release my tax returns.
All right.
Give it time. Eventually you may be asked to.
So, as a student of history, we know that all previous presidential administrations have tussled with the press to some extent or another. The only comparable example I can find of what we are seeing now under the Trump administration is the Nixon years, with a deep amount of aggression displayed to the press. Two stories broke today that I think should be particularly concerning to those of us who believe that freedom of the press is a fundamental principle of our democracy. One broke last night that was mentioned by someone who asked a question earlier regarding Chief of Staff Reince Priebus directly asking the FBI to knock down unfriendly stories regarding Trump administration connections to Russia, as well as the story from this afternoon that Press Secretary Sean Spicer had prohibited at least 3 news agencies from participating in a press gaggle following Trump's following Trump's address at CPAC today. Now that included at least 2 news agencies, the New York Times and CNN, who were directly involved in some of the key reporting displaying the connections to Russia, as well as ongoing investigations regarding conflicts of interest. So my question to Representative Comstock is, what is she going to do to ensure that freedom of the press continues to be a fundamental principle of our democracy and not just one that is applied to the press organizations that the president favors?
Thank you.
Well, I think you can tell from the empty chair next to me that Representative Comstock is also likes to have a level of separation between her and the public, as well as the media. So I can only infer her position on the president by her own behavior.
I speak as an author, as a culture critic. This is deeply troubling to see the attacks that we've seen. It's nothing new to anybody in Europe. To see the sustained attacks, this is day 35. Feels like day 350. But we have seen sustained attacks in just 35 days on the estate that Jefferson thought was absolutely essential to our democracy. Let's hear another question regarding conflicts of interest.
My name is Steve Duggan, Ashford, Virginia, 20147-7136. You always know that. I come as a veteran of military intelligence. I almost spoke for the first time. That is very important to me. Thank you. Thank the military. But I chose to let everybody else speak to that. I wanted to speak to the conflict of interest. In my opinion, the business of government has become indistinguishable with the business of the Trump Organization. There are several different things. Some of them have already been mentioned. Some of them are very obvious. Obvious, we don't have his interests and tax returns. We need those to know what's going on. We have paid spokesman of the president promoting his daughter's brand. Those are very obvious conflicts of interest. What he said. But there's some that are a little more subtle. It was reported that during one of the visits to Mar-a-Lago, the president held 3 different press events at 3 different Trump-branded locations. How is that not an endorsement of the businesses? We've already said that we had the Secret Service accompanying his sons on private business overseas and facilitating that. It was also reported during one of the events, the Secret Service was checking in guests at Mar-a-Lago. Not the Mar-a-Lago staff, the Secret Service was checking them in. So I could go on, but I want to pose 2 questions for Representative Comstock. First, how will you build firewalls to prevent the intermingling of government and personal business of this president? And the second question is, how will you lead Congress to ensure that the government does not privilege the Trump brand over any other brand, i.e. pick winners and losers?
Yeah!
Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you for the question. And I guess it's clear from the record that was displayed a minute ago that Congresswoman Comstock so far has not been a leader in addressing the conflicts of interest. Now, to your point of Mar-a-Lago, yes, it is one of the most obvious conflicts. Already there are reports that Trump Organization doubled initiation fees in Mar-a-Lago Hotel, and it is very clear that the president has financial incentive to hold as many events there as he can. It enriches him personally. Also, and essentially the part of the appeal of Mar-a-Lago now is that paying guests will have access to the president. It's insanely unfair competitive advantage compared to any other hotel in the world, right? There are several options available to Congresswoman Comstock. David, if you go to slide 12, yeah. Thank you. So one, it would be great to just hear a public statement from Congresswoman addressing issues that you raised. She has, to the best of my knowledge, she has not done that yet. There are several bills being introduced, all by Democrats, either demanding that President Trump releases his tax returns or addresses the conflicts of interest directly. Only one of this bill has a Republican co-sponsor. It's a HR 305 Presidential Tax Transparency Act. It calls for the president to release the tax returns. And there is also a bill, HR 371, that addresses the conflict of interest. Again, it would be great if Congresswoman Comstock co-sponsored it.
Just to no statement, no action taken. And in past statements, there does not appear to be any engagement with these issues. Okay.
I just wanted to follow up on a point you made as well in terms of picking winners and losers. You know, a number of constituents within District 10 work for the defense industry and other government contractors. If you've looked at the president's direct involvement in picking winners and losers, I'll just say I've personally had 401k hits when he has tweeted out a preference for one contractor over another. So it is Representative Comstock should have an interest in his, frankly, violation of federal acquisition regulations by inserting himself into the negotiations of existing contracts that the government has with companies that reside in District 10.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Let's go to one last, I hope, quick question, and then we're going to move on to education. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. My name is Jessica Marshall, and I live in South Riding, Virginia. My zip code is 20152. I've grown up in Sterling Park, Northern Virginia, my entire life. And my question with respect to the conflicts of interest is with Melania Trump and her immigration status, and whether or not she worked illegally, fraudulently, while she was here on a visa doing her modeling business stuff. So it's kind of immigration, kind of conflict of interest. It's clearly illegal to work while you're waiting for your visa to be finalized, and there are reports out there that is exactly what she did.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question. Unfortunately, I have to admit that I did not spend much time on this particular conflict of interest. And that is not because it's not important, but because there are so many of them. And if you go, you can see how many of them are. And the reach of Trump Organization is vast. There are multiple conflicts, both in home and abroad. And it's just one of the conflicts that just slipped my attention. So, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on so we can cover as much ground as possible. We're going to talk about education, which is a topic that is near and dear to so many of you in this region. You are privileged to have a terrific school system. A couple things. What will happen if public school resources are diverted to religious schools? And also, Representative Comstock did not need to weigh in on the confirmation of Betsy DeVos, but would she have supported this nomination?
Good evening, I'm David Palanzi, Leesburg, Virginia, 20175. This is my 30th year in education. For the last 15 years, have taught here in Loudoun County. I currently work as the Loudoun Education Association president for the members that are here in Loudoun County Public Schools.
Right on.
My name is Kimberly Adams, and I am the current president of the Fairfax County Council of PTAs, the immediate past president of the Fairfax Education Association. I'm a librarian in Fairfax County Public Schools. I'm a mother of 2 boys and the wife of an educator in Fairfax County Public Schools.
We're happy to have you both. Thank you for joining us. Let's hear the first question.
Thank you. I'm Brenda Bingson. I'm a professional educator, retired. My zip code is 201589531. And yes, I came prepared with a sign because I believe that public education is under attack, and I'm very concerned with the appointment of Betsy DeVos. I wrote to her, and I've been sending her information from various publications that I receive. so that maybe she can become a little more educated on what it is that we're concerned about. So that was the first thing. But my question for Barbara Comstock is, what will you do? What guarantees can you make to public educators that we will still be a viable part of the U.S.?
Thank you.
Excuse me, I'm doing double duty as a teacher. We're always doing more than one thing. I've got it. All right, so what we have before you here is Comstock's stand on education before Trump, and you can see the way she voted, and I cited my source, my librarian friend appreciates this. But we can see that she did vote to diminish part of the Student Succeeds Act, voted to make it easier to establish charter schools, which would give public funds for private schools. She voted for welfare for the rich, which is private school tax credit scholarships. She says she votes or supports teacher pay, but she's voted against it. She often cites, and you'll see on this slide here, this is a shot from her website. I don't expect you to be able to read it, but she goes on and on about how she leaves education because she married an educator, and because her mom was an educator. So if you marry a race car driver, all right. So that was before Trump. Since our president has been elected and there have been only 2 votes on education to date, the record speaks for itself.
Are you kidding?
So we have a repeal of the Department of Education rule on school accountability and a repeal of a Department of Education rule on teacher preparation programs. 100% alignment with the president's agenda.
Wow.
Boo.
Yeah, disappointing.
Let's hear our next question.
Hi, I'm Kathy Stewart-Shue, Sterling, Virginia, 20164. My question for Barbara is, when are you going to start legislating for us? And that really is my question. I didn't know this, and this is shocking to me. Thank you.
And so on her Tiller Town Hall on the 8th, when she addressed education, and you can read her statements, she's gotten a lot of calls. She said that elimination of the Department of Education is not going to happen, but there are many ways to eliminate a department without saying you're eliminating a department. She also advocates the responsibility to the state and local government in her statement, and she did mention during the town hall, again, that she comes from a family of educators. Any family of farmers here that can grow things? My grandparents had a greenhouse, I can't. And she also did mention that we had one of the best school districts in the country. Now, her area covers lots of school districts, so I'm not sure which one. Being from Loudon, I know it's Loudon.
I'd like the audience to raise their hands if they have children or grandchildren in our public schools right now. And keep your hands up if you believe that our schools are headed in the wrong direction. Keep your hands up if you believe that our students are being failed by their teachers and educators. I think we know that standardized testing and other things have made a dent in our education system that needs years to recover from. And Barbara Comstock is not working to make sure that those things are being fixed. She's repealing educator-led movements like the Student Success Act. She's repealing those things which will protect teacher preparation programs and enforce the fact that we want our educators to be top-notch and not just anyone who comes in and says they think they can teach.
Woo!
Another question on education.
Good evening. My shirt is a shout out to Comstock's membership on the Science and Technology Committee.
Science, not silence.
I'm not a science teacher. My name is Lisa Stevens. I live in the city of Manassas, 20110. I'm also a special education teacher in Prince William County. I teach 8th grade. My question, and I think it's already been answered, what I'd like to know is, should there be any federal oversight and accountability for any and all schools that receive government or taxpayer funds? And how will Barbara Comstock ensure the First Amendment is not violated if religiously based, operated, owned schools receive government or taxpayer funded vouchers?
Yeah.
So again, I'm not here to speak for Barbara Comstock, but I can infer what somebody's past record tells us about their future performance.
Good evening, my name is Nicole, and I am from 20165. Since lots of questions have been asked about the K-12 public school system, I think I'll just leave a rhetorical question for the record, which is related to her support of school choice in general, and in particular the New York Times article that just came out today about the dismal voucher results that have come out, and the many, many research articles about the failures around I really need some comments and at least explain to constituents why she supports this, or if there's some difference that we're not understanding. So what I'll do for this discussion is to ask a question about higher education. I work at a university that's located partially in District 10, and I want to ask the question to Rep. Comstock, sort of with the conversations that are happening with relationship to Jerry Falwell Jr. being sort of brought in to support Betsy DeVos, and specifically looking at Title IX and reducing and eliminating things, in addition to the recent sort of decision to backtrack on the transgender bathroom bill. I'm curious to know what Rep. Comstock's position is on the impact that several different issues that are being brought up, like the bathroom bill, like immigration,